Welcome to the Guns and Noses podcast. My name's Helen Taylor and I am the owner of Guns and Noses, and I own 3 Labradors. We're here to talk about real moments, real lives, and the wins, the wobblers, and the occasional up yours moments. We're talking about those dogs with enthusiasm and us humans who are trying to keep up. So why don't you sit back, grab a brew, slow down, and listen in. Hello and welcome back to the Guns and Noses podcast with me, Helen Taylor. I am recording this on a day that I've just had my shoulder injected because I have got 2 frozen shoulders and have been suffering with them since about September last year. And albeit I felt like I could possibly just man up and see it through, after all this time, I thought, I need to have these done. So the doctor told me that I needed to be a good girl and not do too much heavy lifting today. So I thought I'd leave recording my podcast till today so that I can just sit at my computer and basically not do very much. Although I'm doing quite a lot because I'm recording this podcast. But today, I want to talk about a subject which I don't feel many people take too seriously. And I went out to see a client this week, and this particular dog was quite reactive within the home. And it was a little dog. He was a beautiful little pug and absolutely stunning. But this little dog was coming up to 10. And they'd moved house about 6 months ago, and they'd noticed that albeit he's always been a bit of a barker, that his barking had got increasingly worse. Now, one of the things that I noticed as soon as I walked in the house, because I notice a lot when I walk into people's houses, is that the house was a beautiful house. It had very high ceilings. They were renovating it, so they were doing quite a bit of work in the house before a baby arrived. And there was very little soft furnishings within the kitchen area where we were sitting. And one of the things that I really noticed and was very, very highlighted to me was the acoustics within that part of the room. And if you've got a dog who is particularly barky, I want you to be aware of what the acoustics in your home sounds like. Now, what I mean by that is the noise that bounces back to you when you speak or when your dog barks. And if you think about it, if you're in quite an echoey room and you talk, you can hear that noise coming back at you. Now, if you think about it from your dog's perspective and your dog barks and they hear that noise coming back at them, it can make them more reactive because there is a lot of sound within the home. Now, there's not a lot that these clients could do to change that quickly because, like I said, they were renovating, but once they got curtains up and tablecloths on and cushions on the chairs, and they were getting a rug to go in the kitchen, like there was a few different things. Once we find a way of stopping that noise from bouncing around the room, we can almost feel and see our dogs getting calmer. And actually, this takes me back to a story for quite some years ago with a little Bichon Frise that I worked with. And again, he was very reactive within the home. And I went out to see them. And the minute I walked in, I noticed this beautiful high ceiling. There was a staircase that had like a glass banister on it. There were very little soft furnishings. It was a very minimalistic home, but very open plan. And the thing that triggered this dog the most was the phone ringing. And the owners almost equated it to the dog being reactive when the owner said hello on the phone. Now, what was really interesting was when I was there, we rang the phone because I needed to see the behaviour, but actually it wasn't the word hello that triggered the dog. It was the ringing of the phone, and the word hello made the dog bark, but the dog was already triggered before the word hello was even spoken. And what we did was something very, very simple in that moment. I said, let's just turn your phone down a beat or two and see what happens. And we turned it down and we rang the phone again, and the dog was still triggered, but the response wasn't quite as sharp. Then I said, let's go even further. Let's turn it down even more. Now, don't get me wrong, we didn't get to having this phone on silent, but what we did get to was a sweet spot. And the sweet spot was the sound of the phone ringing, but not creating echo within the home. And the moment we found that sweet spot and the phone stopped making an echoey noise, the dog didn't even react. There was no trigger point. And so this is something that I do speak about when I go into people's houses, which is why it's quite important sometimes for me to see the family setup, to see the house, to see what's in the house. Because sometimes when we're living with a problem, we don't always see what the problem actually is or what the trigger actually is. And then a fresh pair of eyes, like mine, coming in, can almost highlight some things that the owners would never even think about. And so echoes and sound within a home, especially for sound sensitive dogs, can be a real problem because they don't understand, they don't get it. And if you think about how echoes come back, they are a repeat of what has just happened. So a dog barking gets a bark back, but it hasn't come from them because they haven't done the barking. So what I want you to think about after listening to this episode is, how do the acoustics sound in your house? Is your dog particularly reactive within a certain area of the home that has got hard wooden floors, or it might have very little in it, so it's very minimalistic? Or like this client that I was working with this week, there was renovations going on, so there was very little sound dampening in the room. And sometimes there's just some really little tweaks that we can make, like I've just said about turning the phone down, or you might just add some curtains or a rug or something to just dampen down that sound. And you'll be surprised at how many homes I go into where they've got these big, beautiful ceilings and there is a lot of echo going on, and the dog just can't quite figure out why. Why is it getting this noise back? And so that's something that's actually quite powerful. And when we recognize it, can become a really small change, but very effective. So this week, what I want you to do is have a look around your house, make some noises, see if you've got a lot of echoing, especially if you've got a problem with a dog who does bark a lot, or they are quite reactive, or they're very triggered by sound within the environment. And you might even do things like putting at the bottom of your door your draft excluders, because that can help to dampen down sound. And these are all just little tweaks that you can do to just create very quick success. But if you do have a problem with your dog who is reactive and you're not sure why, we can hop on a Zoom consult. That's absolutely no problem. That's something that I do offer. Or you could even think about joining the Insiders Club. And we've just had a talk from Dr. Jacqueline Boyd, who is a nutrition expert. She's also a dog trainer. And absolutely fantastic, which has just given my Insiders Club members some real food for thought. And there is guest expert speakers that come quarterly into the Insiders Club on various different topics. And actually, they bring a little bit of something different. So if you'd like to know more about that, you can see that in the description. And otherwise, I will see you next week. But until then, keep training kindly and try to keep up. Thank you for spending this time with me. If today's episode helped you slow down, feel seen, or think a little differently about your dog, then it's done its job. Remember, progress isn't about perfection, it's about observation and reflection. You're not behind, you're not failing, and you're definitely not alone. Until next time, keep training kindly and try to keep up.